We're going to talk about exit planning in 5 minutes. What I want to hit is the key components that I think it's important as you plan your exit that you're taking into consideration for your path forward. The first and most important component is to have your practice valued, ideally 2 to 3 years before you're ready to put your plan in action and sell your practice. The main reason, certainly having the value, is nice for financial planning reasons. Can you afford to retire? More importantly, your practice value, the process is diagnostic for your practice's financial health. I've had practices be worth 30% of revenue, and I've had other practices be worth 100% of revenue. You might choose one timeline if your practice value is high, and a completely different timeline if your value is low. If your practice value is low, a good appraiser is going to be able to give you the feedback to help you identify what's suppressing your practice value and start to bring that value up. So starting with the practice value is key, ideally, as I said, 2 to 3 years before you're ready to exit, and then update that value when you put your plan in action. The next component of planning your exit is to really look at who your buyer is. Are you going to sell to one of your associates? What about if you don't have an associate, maybe going to the open market? There are plenty of buyers out there right now looking for and waiting for practices. The veterinary lenders have the money readily available, so they can afford to buy your practice and buy the real estate. What about a corporate option? The corporations, as you probably know, are buying many of the practices right now. Each one has different strengths and weaknesses, and as you go through that valuation, you can learn that information from your appraiser, or you should learn that information. For example, selling to your associate or a known buyer, you can set a timeline. Going to the market, we don't know how long it's going to take. It could take 6 months, it could take 5 years to find a buyer. Selling to the corporate works very well. However, the corporations need you to stay. So you're exiting from ownership, but you're not exiting from being a doctor. There's pros and cons to each. And if you go through the process and learn as much as you can, then you can develop your plan with full knowledge of the relevant facts and have much more confidence in that. If you are going to the market, it's important to give consideration to a few other variables that can impact your timeline. Number one, geography. Yes, there are buyers waiting for practices. However, they're very location specific, and they usually will not relocate to purchase a practice. What type of practice are you? Most market buyers are waiting for and seeking small animal general practices. So there are fewer buyers looking for a mixed animal practice or a holistic practice or a mobile practice, a specialist, ER. It can be harder to find one of those buyers. So it might be a part of your plan then to back up and start cultivating a buyer, whether they're working for you as an associate or maybe it's just somebody who's waiting for when that happens, especially in the mixed and the large animal practices. So you can set up a timeline, assuming you can find that buyer. Another component of exit planning is giving tax considerations. And what are you going to do with the proceeds from the sale? The next component to give thought to is on the practice real estate. If you own your real estate, are you going to sell it or are you going to keep it? Most buyers do want to buy both the practice and the real estate. And as I said, the money is readily available for them to do that. However, many of your other advisors might say, well, consider keeping that. That's a passive benefit stream, that monthly rent coming in, which is great. However, what I usually recommend to folks is give consideration to the following. If you lost your tenant, the practice grew and the new owner moved the practice, can you find a new tenant? If you can, perfect. Keep the real estate. If you cannot, because you have special use real estate, finding another buyer, then it might be best to sell the real estate right now, or consider learning more about a 1031 tax exchange as a tax strategy to buy different commercial real estate. When it comes to exit planning, what becomes important is planning. Start with your practice valuation and plan the path forward. so you end up where you want to be. Thank you.